Hollywood is back. This Sunday, the Chiefs are taking on the Browns in a game they should win, if their pass rush performs well. If it does, I think we could see a breakout game from one of their rising receivers. Let's break it all down. I'll preview the game, talk about a new defensive tackle the Chiefs signed, and give updates on Hollywood Brown, who's officially back in practice. But first, how about those Chiefs? Hollywood Brown returns to practice on Thursday night. Ian Rappaport confirmed the news we've all been waiting for. Hollywood Brown has finally been cleared by his surgeon to practice. Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride reported that Brown started practicing on Friday, with his official 21-day return window now open. Hollywood was seen back on the field today, and after the announcement, Mahomes even dropped a clock emoji on his social media, basically saying, "It's time." Hollywood Brown replied with his own TikTok, signaling his return is near. Now, don't expect to see him on Sunday against the Browns. Coach Andy Reid already ruled him out. There's a small chance he could play next week against the Texans, but the real target, according to Nate Taylor of The Athletic, is to have Hollywood ready for the big Christmas matchup against the Steelers. How the Chiefs match up without Hollywood. For now, the Chiefs' offense will have to keep relying on Mahomes' key targets, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, and Xavier Worthy. Honestly, they still have a great chance to win, even without Hollywood. The Browns' defense isn't exactly elite. They're allowing an average of 25.8 points per game, which ranks 26th in the league. They're also 26th in yards per play and sit in the middle of the pack on third downs and red zone defense. However, they do have a serious threat in Myles Garrett. Garrett is one of the top pass rushers this season. He's fourth in pressures, 58, and tied for second in sacks, 11. The only player with more sacks is Trey Hendrickson of the Bengals. Speaking of Hendrickson, he caused major problems for the Chiefs earlier this season, which is part of the reason Kingsley Swamata has been benched lately. To make matters worse, DJ Humphrey, one of the Chiefs' key offensive linemen, hasn't practiced all week and likely won't play. Offensive line coach Andy Heck said DJ did okay in his first game back, but he's clearly not at 100%. The left tackle situation. After the injury, the Chiefs are still figuring out who will start at left tackle. Andy Reid mentioned that both W. Morris and Joe Thuney have rotated in, but he didn't give a clear answer on who will start. It sounds like he's keeping his cards close to the chest, which isn't a surprise. No matter who gets the job, though, it's going to be a tough battle in the trenches. But I think there's a player on the Chiefs' offense who could shine in this game and help them overcome the challenge. Last home game. Before the playoffs, speaking of big games, don't forget about the Chiefs' last regular season home game at Arrowhead before the playoffs. It's happening on Saturday, December 21st, against the Texans. If you want to be there, I've got a special deal for you. Thanks to today's sponsor, SeatGeek, you can use the code HBTC10 to get 10% off any tickets, whether it's for Chiefs games, NFL games, or even concerts and festivals. SeatGeek makes buying tickets easy by rating them on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know exactly what you're getting. Green dots mean good tickets, red dots mean bad. Just use the code HBTC10 to get your discount, and make sure to act fast because the offer won't last long. The Browns' defense. Now let's talk about the Browns' defense. They bring pressure nearly 30% of the time, which is one of the highest rates in the NFL. That's something to keep an eye on. Can Mahomes get enough time in the pocket to find his receivers? And if the Browns send pressure, can the receivers get open? Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins might struggle to beat man coverage, but what about Xavier Worthy and his speed? We'll talk more about Worthy in a bit. Mahomes under pressure. As for Mahomes, he's been under a lot of pressure lately. He's been sacked 3 or more times in 3 straight games, and his 35 sacks on the season is already a career high, with 4 games still to go. Cleveland allows 4.5 yards per carry, so the Chiefs need to help Mahomes by establishing the run game to keep the defense honest. Last week, the Chiefs tried to run early but quickly shifted to a quick passing game, using short passes as an extension of the run. But even with that strategy, the more Mahomes drops back to pass, quick passes or not, the more likely he is to get hit, pressured, or sacked. Last week, Pacheco was the lead back, so expect him to have an important role again. Running game and passing attack Isaiah Pacheco ran the ball 14 times for 55 yards, 3.9 yards per carry last week, while Kareem Hunt had just 5 carries for 16 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. We need the run game to get going, whether it's Pacheco or Hunt. Just get it started. That said, the Chiefs will still pass the ball a lot. Mahomes has thrown 37 or more passes in 6 of the last 7 games, and even with the chance of rain on Sunday, I expect them to air it out. Cleveland ranks 27th in EPA per play allowed and has one of the worst coverage grades in the league, so Mahomes should be able to exploit this. Luckily, he hasn't thrown an interception in his last 3 games, so I'm not too worried about that. Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins will be the top targets, but Cleveland's defense will focus on them. This could open up opportunities for Xavier Worthy, who's been improving each week. Over the last 4 games, he's averaged about 4.5 catches and 50 yards per game. Worthy has shown he can be trusted with the ball. He's tied for second in rookie wide receiver touchdowns, with 6, including 2 rushing touchdowns. As he builds chemistry with Mahomes, I think Mahomes will target him more. It feels like a breakout game for Worthy. He's been just a step off on several deep balls this season. If those passes had connected, he could be closer to 700 yards and 8 or 9 touchdowns. Cleveland's defense also allows the 4th most yards per pass, and just 2 weeks ago, they gave up a 93-yard touchdown to Marvin Mims Jr., so I'm feeling good about Worthy having a big game with Hopkins and Kelce drawing most of the attention. If the Chiefs can establish the run and use play action, a deep shot to Worthy could be in the cards. Please, O-line, hold up, and don't forget about DeAndre Hopkins. His hands are like glue, and he's always reliable for big plays. DeAndre Hopkins and other weapons. DeAndre Hopkins is great, but the Chiefs haven't yet fully used him. There are more ways they can get him involved, and they might be keeping those plans hidden until the playoff run. Don't forget about Noah Gray, who's having a career year, and Justin Watson, who might not get targeted often but catches 80% of contested passes, which leads the league. That's a pretty wild stat. Chiefs defense and deep passes. Now let's talk about the Chiefs' defense. They've allowed quite a few explosive plays this year, especially deep passes. They're 27th in EPA, expected points added, per play on deep throws. This is the most deep passes the Chiefs have given up in the 6 years Coach Dave Merritt has been with the team. The good news is that Joshua Williams, who had a chest injury last week, should be back to help cover those deep throws. Coach Merritt said Williams is perfect for this role because of his length and ability to match up with taller receivers. Safety Jaden Hicks played more snaps last week, and it looks like he'll be getting more time on the field this week too. But the Chiefs need to figure out how to tighten up their pass defense. One possible solution could be the return of Steven Nelson, who is currently on the practice squad. If he's back, it might allow L'Jarius Sneed to move inside more often to help cover the slot, where the Chiefs have struggled, but Nelson isn't expected to play for a few weeks, so they'll have to work with what they've got for now. Browns offense. To watch the Browns have some dangerous players on offense that the Chiefs need to watch out for. Jerry Jeudy has been playing like a top-tier receiver, not a Tier 3 guy as some might have thought. He's close to 1,000 yards on the season and averaging 131 yards per game over the last 4 weeks. That's impressive. Elijah Moore also had a great game recently, catching 8 passes for 111 yards against Denver. You can't ignore him either. The Browns will be without Cedric Tillman, who didn't clear concussion protocol, and tight end David Njoku is also likely to miss the game. If Njoku doesn't play, the Browns will use a tight end by committee, so they'll be mixing things up at that position. While the Browns' offense may not always look great on paper, they match up well against the Chiefs' defense. You can't just rely on the season stats to judge how tough this matchup will be. Browns' quarterback situation and takeaways. The Browns have been struggling with their quarterback situation. Deshaun Watson was their starter until mid-October, but played poorly before injuring his Achilles. Jameis Winston took over and has been up and down, throwing 12 touchdowns but also 9 interceptions in his 6 starts. Winston has the ability to make amazing throws, like a 50-plus yard touchdown bomb, but also has a knack for throwing costly interceptions. The Chiefs' defense could really use those turnovers. Their defense hasn't had many takeaways this season, so getting the ball back even once or twice would make a big difference. Chiefs' defense, pass rush, and ground game. When it comes to the pass rush, the Chiefs' defense hasn't been great at getting sacks this year. Despite having a nearly identical defensive line from last year, they're ranked near the bottom for sacks. But when they blitz, they're one of the best in the league at getting pressure, ranking 4th in pressure percentage when blitzing. The problem is that blitzing leaves the secondary exposed, and teams have been taking advantage of one-on-one matchups. The Chiefs' defensive line hasn't been as effective without the blitz. They're ranked 3rd worst in pressure percentage when just rushing the front 4, which isn't ideal. Hopefully, Charles Omenihu, who's been improving in his 3rd game back, and Chris Jones can take advantage of any matchups, especially against Browns offensive lineman Joel Bitonio, who has been dealing with a back issue. Winston has been sacked at least 3 times in 4 of the last 5 games, so the Chiefs need to keep that trend going. Browns running game. The Browns have a solid running game with Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb, but they haven't been very effective lately. The Chiefs' defense is great against the run, allowing only 3.8 yards per carry, which is the 2nd best in the NFL. Because of this, the Browns will likely rely more on their passing game, hoping to exploit the Chiefs' secondary struggles. Game prediction and key thoughts. This is a game the Chiefs should win, but it'll likely be close, maybe even nerve-wracking. Most people are picking Kansas City to win, and I agree, predicting a 21-17 victory for the Chiefs. Kansas City is favored by 3 points, but it'll be interesting to see if they can cover the spread. Chiefs victory and special teams performance overall, I'm predicting another Chiefs win, and that's what counts most in the end. This game is going to be important with every point mattering. I'm going to keep an eye on Matthew Wright to see if he can repeat his strong performance from last week, where he kicked 4 field goals, including the game-winning one. Even though that last kick made us nervous, he came through. Harrison Butker's window to return from IR is now open, and he practiced this week. However, special teams coordinator Dave Toub suggested that Butker might need a couple of weeks before returning, even though Andy Reid mentioned there's a chance he could play this Sunday. It's still unclear, so I think Matthew Wright will likely handle the kicking duties again. 2nd quarter key to success. Here's something interesting. The Browns are the worst team in the NFL in the 2nd quarter, with a minus 73-point differential. In contrast, the Chiefs have a plus 48-point differential in the 2nd quarter. This is when the Chiefs need to capitalize and score at least 10 points, though 14 would be even better. Injury updates and predictions. Let me know your thoughts on this game, your score prediction, and which players could make the biggest impact. Before I get to the injury report, here are my 4 picks for this game. Noah Gray has caught at least 4 passes in 4 straight games, so I'm picking the higher on him. Jameis Winston has thrown a pass longer than 29.5 yards in 4 of the last 6 games. The Chiefs give up a lot of deep plays, so I'm going higher on this one too. Xavier Worthy has averaged 50 yards a game over the last 4, so I like the higher on 39.5 yards. I'm also expecting a breakout game from him. Jerry Jeudy has hit over 70.5 receiving yards in 5 of his last 6 games, so the higher on this one seems like a safe bet. Check out the link to place your picks in the description below, and don't forget to use code HBTC for up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you sign up. Injury report. As for the Chiefs' injury report, there's nothing too surprising. DJ Humphries is likely out as he didn't practice all week. Normally, if a player doesn't practice all week, they don't play, unless it's a player like Travis Kelce. We'll see how the left tackle rotation shapes up. Chiefs injury updates and roster moves. When it comes to the Chiefs game plan for Sunday, Andy Reid basically said, "We don't know what we're doing yet." Nate Taylor from The Athletic mentioned that he would bet on Joe Thuney stepping in to play left tackle rather than W. Morris starting, which is an interesting development. The other key injury updates are pretty straightforward. Hollywood Brown is still out as he just opened his practice window today, so he won't be playing. Harrison Butker is questionable, but I'm not sure he'll play, though you never know. The Chiefs have Matthew Wright on the roster, so if Butker can't go, Wright will handle the kicking duties. Cleveland injury updates. For the Cleveland Browns, guard Joe Bonio is questionable. He's trending in the right direction, practicing on a limited basis. Defensive tackle Mike Hall Jr. is also improving, so he may be good to go. The big one to watch is tight end David Njoku. He hasn't practiced all week and is listed as questionable with a hamstring injury. I don't think he'll play, as hamstrings can easily get re-aggravated, which could keep him out longer. That would be a good thing for the Chiefs' defense since it means one less pass catcher to worry about. Chiefs Practice Squad Edition. Before I wrap up, the Chiefs made a roster move today. They signed a defensive tackle, Siaka, to the practice squad. He was a 3rd-round pick by the Browns in 2023 and played at LSU and Baylor. Although he hasn't lived up to his potential, Siaka is a massive run stuffer, and he could add depth to the defensive line, especially if Mike Pennel gets injured. This signing could also be a low-risk move to prepare for life after Pennel, as Siaka has shed some weight and may be faster than his past athletic scores suggest. Looking ahead, there's a lot happening with the Chiefs right now. Hollywood Brown is back, though not playing, and Butker is close to returning. Things are trending positively, but the Chiefs still need to solidify the left tackle position. Hopefully, Joe Thuney can help as a temporary solution on Sunday, and DJ Humphries can return for the next game against the Houston Texans. What are your thoughts on all of this? Who's going to win the game? And what do you think of this signing? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, let's go. How about those Chiefs?